Here's the news that no one else will report. An update to suspect number 3. Apparently, Secretary of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano has been getting grilled today at a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. Just a short while ago, she was asked if the Saudi student was on a watch list. Here's what she said.
With regard to the Saudi student, was he on a watch list? And if so, how did he obtain student visa?
He was not on a watch list. What happened is this student was really, when you back it out, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was never a subject. He was never even really a person of interest. Because he was being interviewed, he was at that point put on a watch list, and then when it was quickly determined he had nothing to do with the bombing, the watch listing status was removed.
Wrong place at the wrong time. How many times has that happened to you? You don't just put people on a watch list because you are interviewing them. You need a substantial reason. Similarly, DHS told The Blaze yesterday that he was put on the no-fly list as a precaution. Same thing. No one is put on the no-fly list as a precaution. There has to be some actual reason to just ban people from flying. DHS is so confident he had done nothing that they also claim that they were totally unaware of the Saudi national's location. Here is the most important question that DHS still hasn't answered. Why, oh why, was this Saudi national given 212 3B status? You need extremely solid evidence to support this designation. And once it's applied, it does not come off easily. We're going to keep investigating, and we'll keep asking the tough questions. I wish I could say the same for the rest of the media. The big news in the media today is that these two brothers, they just acted alone. They just hopped on the Google box and magically became radicalized, and then click, 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 clicked a couple more times, and magically became highly skilled explosives experts, designing and powerful and sophisticated IEDs like remotely triggered bombs and homemade hand grenades. No help or guidance from anyone. Google did it. That's the theory? Really? Meanwhile, officials were quick to indicate al-Qaeda involvement in the terror plot in Canada that was stopped yesterday, in which 2 foreign nationals were attempting to blow up and derail a passenger train on a line from New York to Toronto. Spain just arrested suspected terrorists who were members of a radical cell close to the terrorist organization al-Qaeda. They recently praised the Boston Marathon bombings and were arrested just a few days before the Madrid Marathon. All of these incidents and activity from major terrorist organizations in the past few days, and the media concludes that the Boston incident, that's just all a big coincidence. Lone wolves. Don't look over here, everybody. The Associated Press reports 2 U.S. officials who spoke anonymously said preliminary evidence from the interrogation suggests that the brothers were motivated by religious extremism, but were apparently not involved with Islamic terrorist organizations. Definitely not Islamic extremism. No way. No way. Just religious extremism. Canada reports it. Spain reports it. Why can't our media report it? Perhaps they're following the administration's lead. Never mention Islam.
The term Muslim Brotherhood is an umbrella term for a variety of movements. In the case of Egypt, a very heterogeneous group, largely secular, which has eschewed violence and has decried al-Qaeda as a perversion of Islam.
It did not bother you that he accessed information?
He accessed some information. What bothers me, quite frankly, are the allegations that are made against anyone who happens to be Muslim.
My question was, is al-Qaeda acting out violent Islamist extremism?
Al-Qaeda is a violent organization dedicated to overthrowing the values that we intend to advance.
Yes or no?
Can I hear the question again? I'll make it as clear as I can. We are not at war with Islam.
But radical Islam could have been one of the reasons?
There are a variety of reasons why people...
But was radical Islam one of them?
There are a variety of reasons why people do these things. Some of them are potentially religious based.
But all I'm asking is if you think among those variety of reasons, radical Islam might have been one of the reasons that the individuals took the steps that they did.
You see, you say radical Islam. I mean, I think those people who espouse a version of Islam that is not...
Are you uncomfortable attributing any of their actions to radical Islam? It sounds like
No,
it.
I don't want to say anything negative about a religion that is
No, I'm not talking about a religion.
Like
I'm talking about radical Islam. I'm not talking about the general religion.
Wow. Whether it's labeling Fort Hood a workplace shooting, blaming Benghazi on a video, calling the marathon bombers religious extremists, the Muslim Brotherhood secular, deleting radical Islam from terror training manuals, or the backing of the Ground Zero Mosque, this administration goes out of its way to kowtow to the Muslim community, despite its obvious problems with radicals. How backwards is this administration? They completely flip out when Sarah Palin puts a target on an election map. That's considered extreme, and according to their logic, will cause others to commit acts of violence. But stop maligning radical Islam and the mosques that preach it. The founder of the ISB is in prison for trying to assassinate a Saudi crown prince. He was a key funding source for al-Qaeda, raising up to $1 million for them. The U.S. government said, quote, the September 2003 arrest of al-Amoudi was a severe blow to al-Qaeda, as al-Amoudi had a close relationship with al-Qaeda and raised money for al-Qaeda in the United States. Youssef al-Qaradawi was a former ISP trustee and also a supporter of Hamas. His sermons air on Al Jazeera and have featured comments like this.
فأطلق رصاصة على أعداء الله اليهود ويطلقون علي قنبلة أختم بها حياتي بالشهادة إن أنا أؤيد قضية فلسطين إنني أؤيد المقاومة وأؤيد الجهاد وأؤيد حماس وأؤيد جماعة الجهاد وأؤيد حزب الله إنني ضد السلام الذي تريد أن تمليه إسرائيل وأمريكا.
These are the parents of this mosque, a convicted terrorist and a radical who supports and encourages terrorism. The mosque is trying its best to distance itself from the terrorists who attended services there. They claim Tamerlan got really upset when sermons talked about honoring MLK and celebrating July 4th. When preachers told congregants that it was appropriate for Muslims to celebrate U.S. holidays such as the 4th of July and Thanksgiving, a man who would later be a suspect in last week's Boston Marathon bombing, stood up to argue. Wow, what a patriotic-sounding mosque that is. I hear it's, I think it's dressed like David Barton Day tomorrow. Is that true? Bring your red, white, and blue turbans. I think it's going to be fabulous. Lee Greenwood going to be calling the people to prayer. It's going to be fantastic. Does anybody actually believe that? This is the same mosque that tells school children that Islam is the world leader in women's rights.
At the time of the Prophet Muhammad, women were allowed to express their opinions and vote in the manner. And in this country, women didn't gain that right until less than 100 years ago. So Islam actually was very advanced in terms of recognizing women's rights. Yeah,
you heard that right. Islam is the world leader on women's rights, even though Islamic women can't show their faces or drive a car. I want to bring in Patrick Poole, a national terrorism expert, and the truth for the truth behind the radical mosque. Patrick, you know this stuff better than everybody. Media is portraying this as a moderate mosque and has Homeland Security made some comments. Have they done anything specific on this mosque lately?
Well, in fact, one of the things that Homeland Security did back several years ago is wipe out all of the open source information, stuff that you can find in all the various newspapers, the New York Sun, the Boston Globe, who have been covering the extremism in this mosque for more than a decade. And Homeland Security, within their own system, wiped all that information out in late 2010 at the demand of the White House.
This is amazing. I feel like we find ourselves here over and over again.
Yes.
Is this deja vu, or am I actually in the same place that we keep finding ourselves in this place where somebody does something terrible and no one on the right says, oh, every single Muslim is bad. We all understand that there are bad actors in every faith, but there is a serious problem going on here with radicalism within Islam, and it needs to be sorted out somehow.
And there are pipelines that these terrorists really roll out of. I mean, it's no secret. You don't have to indict the entire Muslim community to say that there's a problem. And in fact, these extremist groups, one of the things they do is they basically use the Muslim community as a human shield. You criticize us, you're criticizing all Muslims. Group like the Council on American Islamic Relations, the Islamic Society of North America, the Islamic Society of Boston. You criticize us, you're criticizing all Muslims. Well, the fact is these groups don't represent the Muslim community. They represent the Muslim Brotherhood and their Wahhabi masters in the Middle East.
Tell me about the Islamic Society of Boston, because these guys are involved specifically with this mosque, right?
Exactly, and you covered it earlier. The group was founded by Abdurrahman Al-Amoudi, the Al-Qaeda fundraiser, who's currently in federal prison. Yusuf Qaradawi was a trustee. And in fact, that clip that you showed where Qaradawi was talking about, I support Islamic Jihad, I support Hezbollah, I support Hamas. My former neighbor, Dr. Salah Sultan, who was a regular speaker at the Islamic Society of Boston, was sitting 2 chairs away from him. And he was someone that we covered in the Project documentary back in September, the Blaze documentary, with, you know, many of your viewers might remember that. I mean, these are the people that they were bringing into the Islamic Society of Boston, not just once or twice. It's been historic for its entire duration.
You can watch that documentary online, by the way, on demand, and it does give you a great background about all the stuff we're talking about. Tell me about the purging of the ISB records, because I think a lot of people throw that out there. Well, they're purging records, they're deleting things, they're trying to hide things. And sometimes you look through those claims and it winds up not really being true. The information's still out there, but this is real.
Exactly. The Homeland Security records, and we know that there are more than just the Islamic Society of Boston, from what I'm told by congressional investigators who've been briefed on this purge of information. There are hundreds of records involved, and many of these organizations and individuals are directly involved with the Obama administration. Some of the very same people that we covered in the Project documentary, which again you can watch on demand on the Blaze.
Yeah, so wait till the show's over, please. Just run away right now.
Don't turn this off right now.
Yes, it's better than this stupid show, but you know, wait a couple minutes.
But this is stuff that we've been covering here at the Blaze for several years, and I think now with these bombings, hopefully this is what's getting the attention of the members of Congress, because myself and some of my colleagues, we've been briefing these members for the past 2 years, sometimes longer, about some of these issues.
Yeah.
And just here over the past week, we've been hearing from them. Okay, I finally get it, that this is a problem. And unfortunately, it takes dead Americans on our streets to finally wake up our political leadership. Now, on the other hand, the administration, they're doubling down. You know, what you were, this new statement by Napolitano. What is this, her 4th or 5th story on this Saudi kid? You know, last week it was another Saudi kid with the exact same name and birth date and build.
All the time.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
But now they're saying, oh, well, yeah, we added him to the terror watch list as a precaution. And as Glenn discussed last night, that does not happen.
I hope not. It shouldn't.
In order to get put on the terror watch list, you have to have the entire consensus of the Homeland Security, the National Counterterrorism Center, the entire Homeland Security community has to agree for somebody to do that. And we know that he had entries prior to the bombing in his text file. So, you know, Napolitano, how can we believe a single thing that this administration, you know, today we see the GOP rolling out this new Benghazi report that says that, you know, the State Department changed the Benghazi talking points not to protect classified information, which was their story back then, but to protect the fact that they completely failed, going all the way up to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at that time, to cover their behinds, that they had failed to provide adequate security in Benghazi. You know, of course, we don't want to get into the fact that the reason that one of the reasons this report's being rolled out by the Republicans in Congress is to protect the fact that John Boehner was aware that they were moving weapons out of Libya into Turkey and to the Syrian rebels, which we've now designated as global terrorists. But that's a whole other program.
You're sort of depressing me here with this track because, you know, you're right. The Benghazi thing is a great example of this. You know, it's like a new show. American Idol starts up. Everyone's watching American Idol. Everyone loves American Idol. By season 12, everyone's like, all right, these people are singing. I think they start at the beginning with the bad singers, and by the end, there's one halfway decent one, and we're supposed to like them. You get the pattern. And this has happened so many times. Benghazi's a great example. Benghazi, really important. We held on to it as tightly as we could at the Blaze, but the entire media abandoned it. What are they going to do with this story? How are we going to stop this story from the same fate?
Well, as we're seeing with this Saudi kid story, whether he was involved or not, the fact is that the information within the system itself was directly contradictory to what Napolitano and ICE were telling members of Congress, which is a crime. When Napolitano went into an oversight hearing last week and was asked by Congressman Duncan about this, she lied. I mean, what she just told Senator Grassley is a direct contradiction to what she told Duncan last Thursday. She lied. It's a crime. These guys need to start going to prison.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's...
Not that I hold strong opinions.
No, I noticed that a little bit from you, Patrick. Let's talk about not just the founders of this mosque, because the mosque is kind of where we're trying to look a little bit deeper at the moment, because we're left to pick up the pieces of what they're not telling us. We're left to pick up the pieces of the untrue statements. You have not just the founders of this mosque, but the current imam. We have a clip of him. This is, what's his name? Abdullah Farouk?
Farouk, yes.
Farouk, okay. This is him. Tell me this isn't a serious problem. Watch.
الله سلط عليهم طوال التاريخ من يؤدبهم نتيجة إفسادهم. آخر تأديب كان تأديب هتلر. ما فعل بهم وإن كان مبالغوا في الأمر ما بلغوا ولكن استطاع أن يعني يوقفهم عند حدودهم وكان هذا أدبا إلهيا تأديبا إلهيا وعقابا قدريا لهؤلاء.
So that was, I guess, a different clip.
That was Karwadawi.
Yeah, Karwadawi again.
But the clip you're referring to with Abdullah Farouk, the current imam, he says, look, we can't just do jihad by activism and writing letters. We need to do jihad by the sword and the gun.
Yeah.
And this is the guy who was embraced by Governor Deval, who's been praised by Mayor Menino. I mean, it's noxious stuff. One of the other imams at the mosque, Suhaib Webb, 2 days before the 9/11 attacks, he was at a fundraiser for convicted cop killer Jamil Al-Amin with Anwar Awlaki. And these are the guys that are being trotted out by the media, the LA Times, Associated Press, the Boston Globe. All these guys are moderate. They have nothing to do. And strangely enough, the Boston Globe was very critical in their editorial policies of the mosque just a couple years ago. But now in this situation, it's ignore the man behind the curtain. Ignore all those editorials that we printed just 5 years ago.
Why the fear, though? This is the time that people would unite with you to say, what's going on at this place?
But that's precisely what they're trying to avoid. Because
they're trying to avoid people agreeing with the facts?
Well, not just in this situation, but all these situations that keep popping up. You know, it's always ignore the man behind the curtain. With Napolitano and Saudi, ignore the facts. The facts as you look at them, the prima facie, reading of these, that's not really the way it is. I mean, most of our policy is built off, it's like a guy who gets caught in bed by his wife with another woman, and he jumps up and says, wait, this isn't what it looks like. I mean, this is what the media and what the administration and even members of Congress, this is how they behave. They jump up and say, wait, this isn't what it looks like. With this mosque, this isn't what it looks like. They're actually moderate.
Yeah.
This Saudi kid, it's...
You're just depressing me.
It's another kid.
You're just depressing me at this point, Patrick. You're just depressing me.
Well, I have some Xanax. We can...
We'll pop a few in the break.
Pop a few, yeah.
We'll be back in a second.